welcome everybody to the December meetup for NE Tech. I'm sure you've all been dying to join this since the last one because we all love a good Christmas meetup. This month, it's hardware month. So we've got the guys from Tharsus who have created a piece of tech called Bump. Awesome thing. Dying to see it. It's definitely going to be an awesome talk. So firstly, who are we? Obviously, brightened us up a little bit. For those of you who are new to NE Tech, I'm Chris. I kind of do the comparing stuff, and then to the sides we've got James, Mark, and Martha. Unfortunately, Mark couldn't be with us this evening. He had to shoot off, but we have James and Martha on the call. As always, big thanks to our sponsors, Scott Logic. Without those guys, we wouldn't have a meetup. Usually, we kind of do the sort of the physical face-to-face meetups, and we'll kind of have some drinks and some food to go along. But obviously, hashtag COVID, we've had to kind of go to virtual meetups. But we still bring excellent talks, which will be coming up. If you ever want to get in touch with us, we're all over social media. Obviously, I don't expect you to remember that Discord URL. So it is far easier to just go to the NE Tech websites. That's ne.technology. And there you can get in contact with any one of us. Or if you have any feedback, do get in touch. Equally, if you wanted to speak at NE Tech, or you knew somebody who might want to speak at NE Tech, or even just you've seen somebody at a conference, or there's a particular person that you would like to see, then do get in touch, and we can try and get in touch with them. It doesn't matter how big or small. If you want to see Bill Gates here, fine. I mean, we might have a little bit of a struggle getting him on here, but you never know. So yeah, please do get in touch just via any of the social media, or you can get in touch with us directly. So without further ado, if I can move my slide on, I'll hand it over to the guys from Tharsus. So we've got Paul, Nick, Ollie, and Kate here, and yeah, they can tell you all about their Bump project.
Yeah, great, thanks. I'll just share my screen.
Just take the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thanks, Chris. So yeah, hi everyone. My name's Ollie. Thanks for coming to hear us talk about Bump and how we sprinted the London Marathon. We are 4 members of a much bigger team up in a company called Tharsus up in Blythe. We make strategic machines and robots, which are machines that are obviously of strategic importance to our customers. Bump is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we do that, I just want to go through some proper introductions. So yeah, again, hi, I'm Ollie. I'm a software developer as part of our digital technologies team. With me today, there is also Paul Featonby, the director of digital technologies. I have Nick Martin, who is a senior software developer on the team. And we have one of our graduate software developers, Kate Trimble, as well. Our team are essentially the software and firmware team that work at Tharsus, and as a result of the firmware, we also have quite a dabble in the hardware side of things as well. So let's just have a look at what we're going to go through. So there's 4 things that we're going to cover in the talk. We'll look at why we did something in the first place and tell a bit of a story of party balloons and 7-foot sombreros. We haven't gone insane. There is relevance to that story. We'll talk about what we actually did and introduce the technology and what Bump is and how it works. We'll look at how we did it in the speed that we did it, looking at scaling and sprinting and how we did that. And we'll also look at why that matters and what the impact of what we've been working on has been for the people we've worked with. And we'll go through a bit of a timeline. So I'm going to cast your mind back to March 2020, when the time that everyone wishes they could forget, when COVID initially hit. And that caused a bit of a ruckus for a lot of people, a lot of businesses, and it caused quite a big impact to us as a business and to everyone, obviously, in their personal lives as well. And we really wanted to do something to help with the national effort against COVID and create something, or at least help out in that effort to make things to make people's lives easier throughout the pandemic. And we'd kind of done a bit of analysis, and we realized that despite the demand for respirators, for breathing apparatus for the NHS, the respirators had already been pretty well covered. There was a lot of companies in the Northeast and nationally that were working really hard to build respirators and breathing apparatus. Even like Draeger up in Blyth, quite near to us, were working on that and working really well on it. So we decided that respirators were covered and that we wanted to try and focus on something that was a bit more closer to the cause as opposed to the symptom. And as we were trying to live in this office, in our office, where in a world where social distancing wasn't really a thing before this, and then the government all of a sudden said, now you have to be 2 meters apart from one another, we realized that humans are really bad at recognizing what 2 meters looks like. Where we all think that we're incredibly spatially aware, but when your CTO gets out a couple of party balloons, you know, the ones that you can fold up into poodles and things, and starts wandering around with one in each hand, trying to make some space between him and other people, you realize that 2 meters is actually a very long way, which, as a result of all of that, we realized kind of the obvious, that social distancing is really difficult, especially in spaces where it was well, our world just isn't designed for social distancing. So yeah, as we started to explore this kind of space of social distancing and what we could do there, we realized, well, we're not a party supplies company. We're not going to send out party balloons to everyone, and we're not what BBC Click described us as trying to wear as a solution, which was to wear a 7-foot sombrero. We decided that we would try and create some technology, being a tech company, and try and help people like us do what we needed to do, which was get businesses back into offices in a safe manner. So we started looking into social distancing tech and how we could approach this problem that we knew that we had and businesses akin to us had as well. And that's what spawned Bump. So this is Bump. It is a social distancing device that you wear around your neck or on your person through a clip. We'll do a demo of that later, and that'll hopefully all become a little bit more clear. And yeah, right now I'll hand over to Nick, and we'll dive in a bit more detail in the tech stack and how it actually works.
Cool, thanks. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. Hi, my name's Nick. So yeah, as Olly said, I'm a senior developer in the digital technologies team. So yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about the tech stack around Bump. I've got one of the devices here. So this is one that's already on a lanyard, and they kind of they pop out of here, and that's one outside of its lanyard. So they're kind of like hockey puck sized, and there's really 3 elements to the Bump kind of system as a whole. One of them is the actual device itself. So this IoT device that does the social distancing. There's a what we call a hub, which is a kind of internet gateway for taking the data off of this and pushing it up to the cloud. And then there's the kind of front end, what we call a portal. Yeah, the front front end where users can interact with and kind of see their data. So as Olly mentioned, we'll do a bit more of a demo later. These are kind of dead bumps that don't have any battery in at the moment, but Paul will do a bit more of a demo. But basically inside here, there's a bespoke PCB that we designed, along with some firmware written in just plain old C that does the social distancing. And kind of underneath the hood, there's a couple of different radio technologies going on the board. And in particular, we've got a Bluetooth chip on there and some other stuff. And basically between two bumps, the bumps talk to one another, and they're able to determine with kind of centimeter accuracy how close they are from one another. There's a bunch of really interesting code in there to basically trying to prioritize, if I've got like 100 bumps around me, then how do I know which ones to communicate with in order to do that distancing? But just to kind of give you an overview of the system here. So, you've got people here on the left-hand side wearing the little devices. The devices are talking to one another in order to do this kind of this two-way ranging to determine how close they are to one another. And if they do get close enough, as we'll demonstrate later, they display some warnings. But on top of that, whilst they're also displaying those warnings, they're recording the information on the devices themselves. We call each of those kind of interactions between two people, we call that interaction a bump. And those bumps are kind of stored in memory. And then when a user comes up to and interacts with what we call the hub, so this kind of internet gateway, then there's a Bluetooth connection established between the hub and the bump using just a BLE protocol, and that data is then transferred over to the hub and pushed up to the cloud. So the hub itself is an Android platform. So we've taken just a standard Android tablet with a certain minimum requirement spec, and we wanted a kind of really low friction way of providing this is like a kind of off-the-shelf system to our customers. So we basically provide a hub which has been all kind of fully locked down with Android in a kind of kiosk mode, so that they can just use that straight off the bat. It's got so that the hubs have a mobile connection in them, so that the internet is so yeah, it's easy to kind of there's no kind of Wi-Fi connection to worry about. And basically it does some basic processing on the data that's coming across, make sure that everything looks sensible, and then fires that up to our cloud services. All of our cloud services, which is the kind of next stage, are hosted on Microsoft Azure. We kind of use three main services from there. So we've got we use their IoT Hub service, which is the kind of ingress into our backend. We've got a bunch of databases and that are kind of all served by some Azure serverless functions, which we found really good to work with. Actually, this is the first kind of project we've specifically used serverless functions with, and then we have an API management service which kind of exposes a REST API that we can for us to kind of get at the data, and that's kind of where it goes to the next step. So this front end I mentioned, so we've got a portal which again we'll show you some demos later. That's a React single page application which basically just communicates with the API, gets the data that a user needs, and kind of shows that to them. So yeah, appreciate that's a really kind of quick high level overview of the kind of the basic tech stack, but there's going to be time for questions later, I guess. So yeah, happy to try and delve into that a bit more if anyone wants to find out. anymore. Anyway, I'm going to hand over to Paul now to kind of demo the system.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, I've got the pleasure of the live demo, which I will stand up to do. But as Nick showed you, here's one of the devices. You can see it. So every now and again, it does a little white flash, which is just telling you I'm still alive and I'm still working. Over on the table over there, more than 2 meters away, I've got another device that I'm just going to get and bring close to this one. So don't quite have the field of view, but I've got them in my outstretched arms, which is more than 1 meter away. And you can see they flash blue. And I don't know whether you heard, there was a little beep initially. So wait, then when I bring them close together, they both flash red and continually beep at you. So the initial blue beep, when you're wearing this and walking around the office, if you hear a beep, that's the warning for, hang on, just getting a bit too close, should probably move away. And then if it starts continually beeping at you, then you know you need to do something pretty sharp to get out of the way. So these devices now, they've both recorded some bumps, so I'll just separate them. And what I also have here is one of the hubs out of its enclosure. So it's already linked to the bump that I've left on the table here, and uploaded 2 red alerts and 2 blue alerts, and job done. So that's, as Nick said, Bluetooth to the bump, taking the information and fired it over 3G up to the databases in the cloud. So if I now share my screen and show you the portal. So here's the portal. I'm logged in as me. I've already, as a user, associated this bump with its serial number to me and to my profile, so it knows who I am. On the landing page is just really simple kind of overview, my summary. So here in the last 7 days, I've had 12 red alerts for total duration of 2 minutes 39 seconds and 109 blue, total duration of 15 minutes. I can log in and look at that by day, by hour, by different time periods, and I can also view a list of my bumpers. So who are the people that I've interacted with, and then there's a calendar view where I can click on different days and see what's gone on. As an admin for the system, so this is the admin site for what we call Tharsus Test Hub, which is the hub I've got here, and various hubs that we've got for development. So I'm having particular internet problems because I'm not able to load the admin page, but let me just talk. So there's an admin page where you can go in and as a site administrator look at what's going on. So it has just loaded, so I will share my screen again. So yeah, there's an admin page which gives overview of everything going on your site, hub management to add extra hubs or take them away, wearer manager, and manage the admins and groups and league tables and all that sort of stuff. So I'll just show you one thing here. So if I go into the wearer manager and find myself as an admin, I can get in and see anybody's dashboard. So this is exactly the same dashboard that I would see as a wearer. But within this, we're also able to contact trace. So because we know exactly who every bump has interacted with. I can click on the contact trace button, and this will give me a list of everybody I've interacted with in a certain amount of time. So got it set for 5 days because this is just the test hub and not my real data for work. I just see myself bumping with this test bump that only has a number and doesn't have a name. But it tells me straight away, you know, I've had 2 minutes and 40 seconds of red alerts with this bump and 3 minutes 32 of blue. And obviously from the government guidelines, we know exactly how much time we're supposed to be spending next to people. So their guidance is currently, if you spend more than a minute, less than a meter away, then you need to isolate if somebody gets COVID. And if you spend more than 15 minutes, 2 meters away, then you need to isolate. And we've been, well, unfortunate to have a number of cases of at work now. So we've had about, probably about a dozen people who have tested positive. And this has just been really powerful to, you know, so when somebody tests, we just go and look at their bump data and we know exactly who we need to self-isolate as a result of that. So there's no like, oh, what were you doing on Tuesday afternoon? Who were you talking to? Who have you spent time with? It's just here's the data. You know, these 3, 4, whatever number of people, we need to get them off site immediately. They need to test and isolate. So we've been, yeah, while we've been unfortunate that people have caught COVID, we've been really fortunate to have this system to be able to kind of not have to shut down the whole business when somebody's caught COVID, but know exactly who we needed to get off site and, you know, consequently manage the spread of COVID that way. So, yeah, I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to Kate, who will talk us through how we ran at this and achieved what we did.
Lovely, thanks, Paul. Okay, yeah, I'm going to talk about how we did it. So as we've previously mentioned, there was an ever increasing demand for getting businesses back into offices. However, this did present the challenge of making sure that everyone in the office was able to maintain social distancing in order to stay safe. So because of this, it was essential to get Bump up and running as soon as possible, which meant we had to work quick. And we had to make sure that we were working quickly on developing something which would actually make a difference and get businesses back into the office. So there were a couple of things we did in order to do this, and here are just a few. So rapid growth. The team grew. Initially, there were 4 members of our team who were working to get Bump going, and this ended up growing to a team of 12. And as someone who joined during this growth, it was really great to actually start somewhere new during a pandemic and be able to come into the office and feel safe. And this was because of Bump, something that was only an idea a few months prior. Sprint and fast. So typically for Bump, our sprints last around 2 weeks, and at the end of each we have a retrospective which allows us to reflect on what went well and what didn't. And we also have a retrospective which is exclusively for bugs, or bug respective, which we do weekly to reflect on any bugs that we might have to try and ensure that something's in place so they don't happen again. So it only took 6 sprints until Bump was actually up and running, and to be able to achieve this in such a small time, good planning was crucial. So we made sure to prioritize tasks in order to deliver an MVP, the minimum viable product, which focused on the quick wins and the functional projects that would get us there. So it was really important to understand what was required to get Bump out of the door and into businesses, keeping staff safe as soon as possible. So what was needed to make sure that these devices could be worn to maintain social distancing, and what was required to ensure that if someone did test positive for COVID, that the contact tracing could be used to see who they'd been in contact with. And then anything beyond these minimum requirements was just a bonus, and we did have a lot of those. So we were also able to use it within Tharsus, so we were able to sort of deploy it in our own system, and this allowed us to learn a lot very quickly. So that meant we had a lot of users, and we were therefore able to get a lot of real data very quickly, so we could find any flaws and then quickly make those changes. We also had some amazing trial partners and people involved in the process, and this included a task force who was working with those trial partners, and this provided us with some invaluable feedback and insight. So I'm going to pass you back over to Olly to sort of talk through the impact of all of this.
Thanks, Kate. Just share again. Cool. Yeah. So as Kate was saying, we had to run really fast at that, and one of the big drivers was given away a little bit in the title of this talk was London Marathon. So just a little timeline up to that point is quite impactful, I think. And if we look back in March, Bump was just a website. That's all we had at that moment. At that point in time, we were just a marketing site online, just a pretty blue picture. By around June, we had London Marathon knocking on our door, asking if we could potentially support 250,000 people at London Marathon, and when it was going to be a mass participation event, and that was, we were like, yeah, maybe we don't really have a working Bump yet, but sure, we'll do something with you. We got to July, and we had around I think we could get about 100 bumps working in the same room as each other, and it was kind of viable by this point. And then in October, I was soaking wet on the Mall at London Marathon, and Bump was being worn by all the elite athletes on the Mall and in the hotel, and all of the construction staff had to wear them as well in order to help support that. So in just 6 months, we'd managed to go from an idea to supporting the first major marathon to run safely during a pandemic. And the technology wasn't really designed to work in that environment. Like I said at the beginning, like this was meant for offices. This was meant for getting manufacturing facilities back to work. You can't build a robot in your bedroom. So we had to try and help get those people back. And we're pretty proud of the fact that we managed to get through that in those 6 months. The next slide is kind of more just gloating on my part of this is the fastest marathon runner in the world wearing a Bump, and I got to give it to him. So if anyone knows Eliud Kipchoge, then this it's just for me. So that kind of wraps us up. I'm sure there's questions that we'll do our best to answer, and yeah, thanks, Chris.
Cool, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, that was an awesome talk. I guess a question for myself. What do you envisage the kind of future of the project? Are you going to kind of do like mass rollout, or will it be kind of adding some extra stuff onto it?
Yeah, shall I answer? So, I mean, we've, you know, this is, we're not here to sell it to you, but, you know, we've rolled it out, got a number of customers, and, you know, they're continuing to use it.
We have a bunch of really great trial partners, and we do have it rolled out in a lot of sites across the country, and a few across Europe as well.
Nice. Also, I guess I'm curious about kind of the tech stack as well. You mentioned that you were using React. What did you use for like state management and things? Was it Redux, or did you use something fancy? Or
no, we're using Redux, and we ran with the new Redux toolkit because all of the kind of create async func and all that lovely stuff's all kind of wrapped in. So yeah.
How have you found using it?
Yeah, no, I mean, personally, I really, I like Redux. I mean, I think it's, I mean, there's a time and a place for using it, and I guess it was questionable the size of this site whether or not it was worth it. But some of the data manipulation we have to do is relatively kind of to do like some of the contact tracing stuff is, I mean, it's not overly complex, but like just having the store there to help manage that was definitely useful.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess just I've heard kind of a mixed bag of reviews for that. Like some people like really love it and like swear by it. Others seem to kind of just hate it for some reason. It seems like be a really Marmite thing, but I guess the general kind of trend is that people seem to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't know what you think, Ollie, but personally, I think it's a pretty kind of powerful kind of like tool set to have, I guess.
It removes so much complexity when you're trying to manage quite a large set of states.
Yeah. Cool. Any questions from the audience? Feel free to unmute yourself if you did. No. Okay, cool. No, well, actually, one more question for myself. What's the battery life like on these things? Because I guess, obviously they've got to survive the length of the London Marathon, I guess, maybe. So, I mean, yeah, well, what's the battery life like?
Yeah, it all depends on the activity that they're having. We had some, as you get at big events like that, you have some people that just are going to ignore social distancing regardless. So if you stood next to someone for the whole day, then you'll maybe get a day's use out of it. But in the office, when you're like being more proactive in your social distancing and trying to avoid more people, I think we're getting about 3 days now, something like that, 3 or 4 days.
Wow. Must have a massive battery
for
that sort of time. Nice.
Yeah, there's some clever stuff that the electronics that we're doing in the firmware to try and, obviously as you do to make sure we're, shutting down and putting things to sleep when we need to, and it's part of that kind of management of what trying to prioritize which bumps we think we need to do the kind of expensive talking to, and there was quite a lot of work, especially initially, like in order to improve our battery life, but by kind of optimizing like how many bumps do we think it's important that we're interacting with at any one time, and keeping that kind of that list management under control. And that was quite an interesting problem.
I just had a question. Is the 2 meter limit, is that configurable or is that preset in the device?
Yeah, it's configurable in the firmware.
So what's the limit?
I don't know off the top of my head, and Ross isn't here to answer. Do you have a better answer, Paul?
Sorry, the limit in terms of distance, you mean?
Yeah, limit versus accuracy. So I suspect maybe a 10 meter radius, it may not be as accurate as if it were a 2 meter.
Yeah. So, to be honest, we've never tested that because it wasn't what we were looking to do. If you're 10 meters away, you're safe. We definitely see other devices 10 meters away because, as Nick's mentioned, if you're in a big crowd, actually managing who you're actually going to range with was quite a challenge in the firmware. But in terms of accuracy at 10 meters, my gut tells me it would be tens of centimeters from what we saw at the lower distances. But yeah, never actually measured that.
I guess you must be limited by kind of the Bluetooth tech as well, because Bluetooth does have a limited range. So I suppose you would be maybe limited by that.
Is this BLE 5 or you're still working with BLE 4?
The devices use BOE5, yeah.
So when you had the marathon set up, did you have to dot out those hubs along the route, or is it just at the end?
Yeah. So the marathon was a bit was trying to ram a square-shaped object into a circle-shaped hole. So we had bump distribution centers set up on the Mall, and because it was just elite athletes, spectators, physios, and a few others, we sort of had two tents at both entrances where those people could come through. So it was just like we had hubs placed at the tents, and because it was so controlled, they had a really specific green zone and amber zone where you could only enter if you had certain like privileges for if you'd been COVID tested and that kind of stuff. So we had hubs in those two spaces where we knew that people would walk past, and then at the end of the day, people would tend to, if they were a contractor, they tend to bring their bumps back to us anyway and download their data at the tents.
Oh, so throughout the day, each bump just gathers what else it bumped into until it syncs.
Exactly.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, they just store all their records on the device and then offloads them at the end of the day, or whenever you go to a hub.
So the hub, I suspect, is also sending out some sort of ability to say, I'm here, I'm the hub. Do you want to offload some data off, type of thing?
So the system works by the hub kind of pulls the information. So it's the hub that initiates the connection with the device.
Oh, that's cool.
There's a similar question to kind of that. So what's the limitations of the storage on it then? So if you, I don't know, if you used it for the whole day and you didn't sync your data, like would it run out? Could it run out of memory, or like what happens at that point?
This is about 2,000 is the answer. 2,000 interactions it will store.
Right.
Around about that.
And then is it just kind of like a hard cut off at that point, or does it remove
like
data, or
it'll like circle around and overwrites the old stuff.
Right.
You know, you mentioned Kate mentioned that you were working on the MVP. And is what you currently have the MVP, or is it the not MVP finished?
I guess it's the now not MVP. So it's the VP, or I don't know what the opposite is. But
it's MVP. It's the much more MMVP, the much more valuable product.
But like the initial thing, kind of as Kate alluded to, I mean, initially we did it mainly for ourselves and to keep the factory open and our office open. So we wanted something as soon as possible that people could wear and that had basic functionality. So like, the initial ones didn't have a 3-day battery life, and they were in the same area, but they still provided some information.
Why was it that you settled on Azure rather than something like AWS, for example?
It's a good question. Just pretty much actually just down to my familiarity with the system. So it was a system that we'd used previously, and so yeah, we already had experience with it. Yeah, although interesting, or not really with Azure Functions. This was we thought we'd give them a try for this project, and I'm actually pretty impressed with them. They do the job for this definitely.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Any more questions from anybody else? Yeah, golden science. All right, sweet. Okay then. Guess yeah, we can draw it to a close. And so yeah, massive thank you from you guys for telling us about Bump. Really awesome project. If I can just take the slides off somehow. Let me. There we go. So yeah, for everybody else, you know, if you have any feedback for the guys or any more questions, do get in touch, either with the guys at Tharsus or with ourselves, and we can forward your questions on. Also, any feedback, you know, whether it's good or bad, you know, we'd love to hear that. So if I can move the slide on, so that's it for 2020. I know all of you guys will be tearful at this stage. You know, you're gonna have to wait until 2021 for the next NE Tech, but don't worry, it's only around the corner for January, and we've got something top secret at the moment waiting for you. So yeah, once again, big thanks to the guys. If you have any questions, just give us a shout. And yeah, we'll see you in 2021. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.